Diagnosed now with an inoperable brain cancer, a condition that he blames on his steroid use. Tonight, Roy Firestone brings you up close with one of the game's fiercest competitors who is in the fight of his life.
Now joining us up close, man I've had the pleasure of knowing, continue to know, for the last 14 years, Lyle Alzado. Thank you for joining us, Lyle.
Roy.
How tough is this to do this?
It's a little frightening. I don't want to, I don't want to indict anybody. I just want, however trite this sounds, I don't want anybody to be hurt by it anymore. And either I'm dying or something that obviously a lot is wrong with me. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I'm going through. If I had to make the decision to be part of pro football for 16 years, if I had to do that, to take the steroids that I took, the growth hormone for my comeback, and all the other stuff that I did, I wouldn't give up my life for it. And I don't think the kids that walk on the beach that are built by steroids, the athletes that compete in pro football, in pro basketball, in pro football, in pro baseball, I don't think they should have to make the choice. I don't think there should be a choice. And I'm not doing this for my own benefit. I'm doing it for the benefit of all my friends and all the people that I've played.
I want to be real careful about this because I don't want to exploit this situation. Clearly, it's very, very dramatic. But we have a piece of tape of you on our show a few years back when I asked you about the issue of steroids. And what you said was, you didn't deny anything. All you said, it was an individual's choice. I want you to listen and look at that clip right now. And this was our exchange back then, and we'll talk about it. Here it is.
I think that their standpoint is to protect the athlete and their privacy. But I think
what about their health, though, Lyle?
I know, this is the point I'm trying to make. I don't believe that's a necessity at this point. I think what's important is the understanding, as I mentioned previous to this, of what the steroid does. Now, people may disagree with me and say, how can Lyle say that? He's okaying the use of steroids. I'm not disallowing it, and I'm not saying it's okay, and I'm not saying you shouldn't use it. I'm simply saying there should be a prescribed situation where an athlete has the choice to take it or not to take it. And that's what I really believe. There is no documented proof in actually following an athlete in his career when he's taking steroids, what it does, what the harmful effects are, and what the positive effects are.
Lab tests, though. There's scientific tests.
No, I don't care about scientific tests. I don't care what they do with animals. I care what they do with the human being and an athlete, what he does, and how long he stays on.
Is this proof enough for you? There are some people, Lyle, who to this day say there's no proof that the lymphoma was caused by steroids. Is this proof enough for you?
I ate healthy. I lived healthy. I got my sleep. And I got sick. Now, how does that happen? It doesn't happen because you live right. It happens because you do something wrong. And what I did, I did something, obviously obvious. It was wrong. And I just don't want the kids to walk out of the gyms, to go to the beach. Even if they're not competing, there's no reason to use something that's going to kill them before their time.
You have been using steroids for 22 years.
People since
69 or 70.
Yeah.
69 or 70. How did you get introduced to steroids?
You know, I really, if I could remember, I would tell you, Roy, and I would tell the people out there, but I don't remember it. I was in college, and I realized I had to get bigger, and it helped me put weight on. And I took a thing called Dianabol, and a lot of other things. You know, anything that has the name of steroid in it is just dangerous. It just is. I just don't see the use in doing something that's going to destroy your life.
When you looked across the line, an offensive lineman, and you knew a guy wasn't using steroids and you were, did you feel you had an advantage?
I felt at the time when I was playing that I had an advantage no matter what because of my emotional erraticness. The use of steroids was just added addition to my confidence. And I knew that if I played against guys that was 6'8", 320 pounds, and at the time I was 6'3", 260 pounds, it wouldn't make any difference to me because I knew I could maneuver them physically.
We must be very clear about this.
And another thing too, Roy, if I might intercept this, I was like Rocky Marciano. I would bang people and bang people and bang people until I wore them down physically.
What I was going to say is, you didn't get these steroids in the locker room of the Los Angeles Raiders,
No.
but there was plenty of hush-hush talk.
It wasn't talked about. If somebody needed something, then I would tell them where to go or how to get it. And it wasn't talked about after that. And I think it wasn't talked about because nobody'd like to admit the use of something to enhance their performance.
The big question here, the big issue here, and I'm not trying in any way to implicate someone like an Al Davis. I'm
No,
really
of course
not.
not.
But the whole umbrella issue is just win, baby. Whatever it costs, just win, baby. And that's so damned wrong. It's not just win. There's so much more to life than just winning.
There is a lot more to life than just winning, but as I realize now, which may be too late. But I think that Mr. Davis and the rest of the owners, Art Modell and the people from Denver and all over the league, have to now test the right way. You know, which is this. When I made my comeback, they tested me for steroids, which I passed. You know why I passed? Because I took
Human growth hormone.
The human growth hormone. And it's part of your system. It's part of what you do. It's undetectable, and they can't test that.
So how can you test it and get some kind of detection of the use?
I don't know what the test consists of, but I do know that there's a test that will indicate that you're using that.
It's expensive. That's what they say.
The league makes a lot of money. It's something that the league has to now concern themselves with because there's too much that's happening that's bad. That depends upon the league to do the right thing at the right time.
We'll come back with more after this.
Hey,
Dr. Otto Schenkman.
This man is afraid of losing a lot more than his religion. Spilled milk, hammered anvils, impaled angels in a stump. He exhibits a textbook case of castration anxiety fueled by fear of his own masturbatory urges. How come he looks more depressed than fearful? Well, he has seen his wings fall off. Wouldn't you be worried?
MTV, an obedient tongue licking the shiny leather boot of rock and roll. Why?
There are a lot of athletes who have used steroids over the years, many of whom have acknowledged their use. Brian Bosworth is one. In talking to Brian recently, he told me he was scared, just scared, because he doesn't know what's going to happen 5, 10 years, maybe less down the road. Based on what you know, do you think your other colleagues, based on what happened to you, are scared too, day to day?
You know, Roy, I've known you for a lot of years, and I hope they are. You know the same people I know, and I hope they're afraid, because I've never been afraid of anything or anybody in my life. This battle is harder than anything I've ever been through. I hope that, you know, I was afraid laying in the hospital, almost half dead. I said to God, I said, if it's time to take me, but if I can do something other than tell people that I've used this stuff, then let me know.
Bob Hazelton was a weightlifter. I think he was a weight trainer. He worked as a wrestler. He was a bodybuilder, etc. He lost both of his legs to blood clots because of his constant use of steroids. He did our show, and he talked about the big crisis that's developing in the high schools and the junior high school levels.
Yeah.
Let's listen to what Bob Hazelton had to say.
I did a school, I don't want to give the name out, but I had gotten a letter from a parent to where they told me that 73% of their athletes in the school were on steroids. And we're not even skimming the surface right now. We're living in a world or a country where everybody wants to be number one. And the thing about it is that you'll pay any price. The thing about it is no one knows the price you're going to pay. They think, well, I can get by by doing this and nothing's going to happen to me. Nothing's guaranteed in this world when you're using anabolic steroids. Nothing's guaranteed you're going to go to college on a scholarship. Nothing's guaranteed that you're going to go to the professional ranks and make those $1 million paydays. You're taking a chance to shoot this stuff and get a big body and still not make it and destroy yourself.
You see these kids who are not even athletes. They're trying to impress girls. They're innocent. They're 15, 14-year-old. I've seen some of these kids at the gyms. They've got big muscles and big necks and thick legs. And they're not even trying to compete. They're just doing it because they're young and they have no idea what's ahead. And that's what he was talking about.
And what he said was right, and I feel bad for him, but he took a chance on being number one, and he's right. They should de-emphasize the fact that winning is is all you need to do. Because if you look at the football teams, there are only 47 guys. How many millions of football players are there in America? 12 guys play basketball. You know, you can go on and down the line, but the percentage is so great.
But Lyle, I've talked to players for years, and what they've said in confidence is, you're going to take my livelihood away if I won't take a risk?
You know what they don't know? They don't know how much it hurts to be sick, how much weaker you are, how much you sacrifice for that. If they knew that, then they wouldn't take the chance of doing that. They wouldn't say the things they say.
There was one really telling moment. It's in the Shelley Smith piece that you did for Sports Illustrated, which is out today.
Right.
Somebody was making fun of you about your bandana or your hat. But your wife, Kathy, held you back and said, Lyle, you can't fight. You're not strong enough. That was very poignant.
Very, and you come to the realization of some of the things that you once were that you're not. And I knew that I wasn't physically strong enough to do anything like that anymore.
Well, what he is now is honest. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the honesty and the truth. We'll come back in just a few moments with Kathy Alzado. Been a great, great support for Lyle Alzado. We'll do it after this.
It's our Eve Sports Center. We'll be recapping the lead stories of this day. We'll have the story of the possible tampering charges against the New York Knicks.
Lyle Alzado and Kathy Alzado have been married since March 9th. At the time, Kathy, before she got married to Lyle, had no idea that Lyle used any kind of drugs, be it steroids or any kind of drugs. You thought that Lyle was diabetic initially, didn't you?
Well, originally, when I first found the first needle at home, I asked him what they were for, and he said, I used to use steroids, but I don't use them anymore. This was about 4 or 5 months into the relationship.
Did you believe him, Kathy?
I suppose at the time, yeah, when I first asked him, I did. But I started to find them hidden underneath things in the trash bin, and I knew that they were used needles, and they weren't old, they were new. So, kind of made me question a little bit more.
You got married on March 9th. 2 days later, you were in the hospital.
Yeah, I just, you know, if you looked at the films of the wedding, we had it pictured and filmed. You could see when they announced the fact that Kathy and Lyle Alzado are now man and wife, when we walked back down the aisle, you could see my right leg wasn't as strong as my left leg. And I could hardly get on the plane. And when I got on the plane, we went right to the hospital. And her dad, thank goodness, and her mom, you know, they left their work and their jobs, and I went through sieges. Her dad saved my life.
You collapsed at a yogurt store on Melrose, and her father was there.
That was the year before.
That was a year before, a full year before.
Exactly.
But that was a warning sign, then.
That was a warning sign, but they said that the tumor didn't actually start growing till January of this year.
When you got the news, and this is tough, I want to try to deal with this with some dignity here. What did you say to Lyle? What did Lyle say to you? I mean, you're talking about some very heavy news. How do you deal with it?
When they told me I had cancer, I didn't know that's what I had. When they took the MRI, I thought that, and the doctors thought it was just a virus. When they studied it, and Kathy made them give me a biopsy, a brain biopsy, they discovered it was cancer, brain cancer, lymphoma.
How are you dealing with this, both of you, day to day?
Oh, God.
A lot of praying.
Yeah.
A lot of...
Financially was strapped, like I have never been before.
Does insurance cover this?
A lot of
medically,
it. Yeah. But there are other things that we have to take care of, you know. You know, like I said before, I was so afraid, and I laid in the hospital. I could have bitten the bullet if Kathy and my doctor Huizinga didn't make decisions to operate.
What did you learn about the power of love, Kathy, through this ordeal?
That there's nothing stronger than, I guess, marriage. Something that, you know, it really taught me, there were some very, very tough times in the hospital. People that, you know, are good and bad, and you just find that, you know, the strongest thing is your marriage, and you've got to hold it together no matter what things try to pull it apart, or whether it be sicknesses or other people. You got to stick together, and you got to I mean, you got to just pull through every single time together, and it just gets stronger.
She's been by my side every second of the day. It's hard for another human being to do.
A lot of people would have bailed out, could have bailed out.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And day to day, what do you do? What kind of regimen to try to keep sustain Lyle, try to get physically better? Physically, I know you're trying to eat more.
If I try, she gives me my shots that I have to take. She takes me to the hospital every other day. She stays with me. She makes sure. At night when I sleep, I open up one eye a little bit, and I see her looking at me to make sure I don't have a seizure, to make sure nothing's wrong, I don't have fevers. I don't like to talk for Kathy, but I realize a lot more than she thinks I do.
There are a lot of people who said, you know, Lyle did wrong, he's paying the price, but they may not know the quality of character that this guy has, his heart and his love of humanity. If you can articulate in a few words the quality of Lyle Alzado, what would it be, Kathy?
An immense love for every human being that walks this planet. I mean, he is so good to everyone who comes into our life, whether they've done him wrong or not. You know, he's just always there for everybody, and especially now. I mean, in his, I don't want to say weakest time, but it's very hard on him. He's still there for everybody else. And that says a lot for somebody, because usually they'll say, well, look what you've done to me in the past. You weren't there for me when I needed, you know, you before. Why should I be there for you when I need you? You know, he's just always there for everybody.
I don't want to overstate this, but on behalf of all the people who love you, Lyle, and I count myself as one, we wish you Godspeed, good luck. We're behind you. We're going to do a benefit coming up later on this year. We'll put up an address now.
Please, if anybody's listening to the show, I'm sure there are a lot of people. There's no reason to do this stuff, dude. You exchange one thing for another, and it's your life.
By the way, that fund we just saw was a benefit for the Lyle Alzado family. They're not tax deductible under federal or state tax laws. We're not running a charity here, but obviously you can imagine the expenses are quite exorbitant. Folks, we wish you the best.
Thanks for
God bless you,
Lyle.
Kathy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's go back to SportsCenter.